All right, here we go. Talking squats, obviously, but I want to talk through a little technique tweak on a back squat, and this would be primarily more for a multiple rep set, kind of more of a bodybuilding or a physique emphasis. For powerlifting, you can start like this. I'm not sure of the specific regulations for IPF or any of the other federations, but it's just something to keep in mind if you train like this. If the actual federation requires something different from a setup or starting point, just to keep that in mind so that you actually practice the specifics of that before you go into your meet. Getting into the tip though, one of the things that I want to talk through and kind of re-emphasize, because a lot of people have been doing this, but I kind of want to put the why behind the what here. So with squatting, a lot of times people will go through the movement and they'll say, I'm doing the movement and you can see me squat from a coaching perspective, but it just doesn't feel right. And most people will say, well, just keep squatting, it'll get better, don't worry about it. Sometimes it does, but a lot of times it doesn't from a biomechanical standpoint. And the movement may look good, but if it doesn't perceptively feel good to the person, in terms of either pain or just general discomfort, they can tell that they're out of position if they're very kinesthetically aware, then you need to address that and cue them through that movement. So one of the things to think about in your back squat is when you initialize the rep, rather than starting from here and then going into your rep, kind of think about having soft knees. So you're just barely unlocking the knee just enough so that you can get a little tension. And what you do with this is that when you unlock the knees, now you're shifting more tension onto the quads and a little bit into the glutes as well to have to stabilize the femur. But at the same time, if we think about this from a PRI perspective, if you're giving a little bit of quote-unquote slack to the quads, then what you may find is that it's easier to recruit the adductors here, and you won't run into as many external rotation issues. With a lot of athletic populations, what can happen is they can become very chronically overextended and live in this hypolordotic posture where they have a really large arch through their lumbar spine. Similarly, they can also run into issues where they're constantly externally rotated bilaterally or perhaps unilaterally. And as such, they're going to have issues recruiting an adductor on one or both sides. What I've found is that simply cueing a little softer knee at the start is going to make a bigger difference in terms of the movement feeling better to them subjectively, and then also to you as a coach perceptively. You may see some other common compensations clean up as well. So I'll show you a rep or two to give you an idea what it looks like. If you want to see more, let me think. The Chinese would be a Google Chinese weightlifter squatting. A lot of times they'll start with a softer knee position, or they'll have a little bounce at the top, in which case they're just loading the quads or they're not coming to full lockout. As I said, bodybuilders have been doing this for a long time, but this kind of helps to put together some of the pieces and gives you a better idea of how you can apply it. So normally here, you would be locked out. Some people squeeze the glutes and whatever. It's just a little soft knee bend, just there so you got tension through the quads, and then take your breath. So hopefully when you squat like this, a little bit softer knees at the top, you'll find you load that VMO, aka the inner quad muscle, a little bit more. And you might find that you actually get some soreness deeper in your glutes, and that's because now you're firing more of the internal rotators. And below 90 degrees, specific muscles within the glutes actually become internal instead of external rotators. So kind of keep that idea in the back of your head and think, well, if I'm getting some of this deep soreness within the glutes and my VMOs are getting a bit more sore now than they usually were, it's probably a potential indication that you're getting some more adductor activation and actually pushing through your quads now instead of only using your glutes and hamstrings.